Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, right? Hopefully you enjoyed the food, and if you haven't, go and get more, and don't be shy to get up and go and get more or get something to drink. I don't mind. So if you need to stand up, stand up. Whatever you do is fine. So thank you for having me today. I'm really excited to be here because this is a presentation that I really enjoy. I think it's fun, and I also think it's fun to hear about what other people do. This is not just about me or you. This is about all of us, and to see, okay, what can we do to set ourselves up to be successful in whatever we want to do. And there are a few easy things that we can do, and you can tweak those. You can basically build up a toolbox and work from there. So quickly, who am I? You've seen me before. So I'm a researcher here at RMIT University, and I work on interactive information retrieval, but I also work on conversational systems. I have worked with pilots, lawyers, physicians, and I've worked on things like identifying cardiac arrests over telephone calls. I also work in more multimodal settings, and this is an old slide. Well, the previous one is an old slide because now there is also something added that says LLM, because if you don't, then you're out of date. So this is kind of who I am and what I do. This slide is also out of date, but it gives you a little bit of a view. I've already spoken about this morning, where I come from. I think it's really interesting to create a narrative to where you've come from and where you want to go to. So I did social sciences in my undergrad, did social sciences. I left. I came here, then went into postgraduate more. I went into a PhD in computer science. I became a research fellow at RMIT, at Melbourne University. Then I became a vice chancellor research fellow. That became a vice chancellor senior research fellow, and now I'm a senior lecturer. So I need to update this slide. Wrong button. A question for you. So I refer to this as pioneers or first-timers. And I don't need to have you identify yourself if you don't want to, but I just want to acknowledge that some people in this room are pioneers in what they're doing. Pioneers in the sense that they may come from a background that no one has a university degree. They are the first in family to go to higher education. And everything becomes more challenging. You don't understand all of the concepts. You don't fully understand on how things work, or it's more difficult to come to understand that. So I just want to acknowledge that and keep that in mind, that some of us are privileged in the sense that we have a network around us that knows how it works and can help you. Other people don't. Quickly. I know that you've probably already kind of know each other, but some people shout out, tell me what you do. What kind of research topic or area are you working in? LLMs and law. Cool. Like that. I just published a paper with some lawyers on LLMs and judgments. Yes, because it is a fun collaborator. Anyone else? Yep. Okay, that sounds heavy. Anyone else who wants to share what they do? Yep. Frame AI, government. Okay, cool. Ooh, yeah. Okay, let's move on before it gets too heavy. Disclaimer. I think. Let me quickly do some things here. Okay. Oops. Today, what I'm sharing, a lot of these thoughts are just my thoughts and opinions and things that I've gathered along the way from other people as well. So anything I say here is not a law, is not the truth. I like to think in a lot of grays. I don't like to think in black and white. So let's keep that in mind as well. Another disclaimer that, you may differ. You have different opinions, which is absolutely fine. That's why we're here. This is why it's safe space, and we can share these opinions. Disclaimer 2. I am bringing a lot of advice from where I work and where I have studied and the context in which I live. So a lot of things are based in interactive information retrieval, human-computer interaction, based from experiences here at RMIT. But I try to open this up, and generally, I'm sorry for the people that are not as computer sciencey focused. I will focus on that a little bit more, but I'll try to broaden that up, and please also share your views on these things, right? So it's a two-way stream. So as I said, I generalize, although it will be hard sometimes. Then disclaimer 3, interact if you've got a question. We're a small group, so just shout and say what you want to say. Not all the time, please, but most of the time. And because it is nice to hear different opinions, and that's part of what this session is about. So how to interact? It's pretty easy. Raise your hand function, or because we're quite small, you can just interject. Anyone online, raise the hand function. So what I'm going to talk about today is the PhD pyramid. It's something that I've developed over the years to just try to use that as a framework. Don't see that as a truth. It's more, a way of conveying some information to you. And this is what we're going through. Right, I will take you through all of the steps, some faster than others. But instead of calling it the PhD pyramid, I thought it was kind of lame. So I called it the Rascal Pyramid because, look, that's a little bit more fun. For people who might not know what a rascal is, it's a mischievous or cheeky person. Apparently, there's a movie called Rascal or something, I didn't know. So I'm going to go basically through all of these layers to take you through all of the little things that you might be able to do. So don't worry about if it looks a little bit a lot. I'll guide you through all of it. And we start with life. I think you're all breathing, you're all alive, you've eaten, there is beverages, toilets, so we're good. But I think there are a few things that we sometimes forget, especially when we're doing our research, we're in the middle of something, we need to get something finished, and we forget to actually look after ourselves. And one of these things is move, right? You need to move. Go outside, the sun is shining. I wish I was outside because the sun is shining. But look after yourself. Similarly with food. Garbage in, garbage out. Take care. If you are the person that always goes to McDonald's, I try to convey to you that perhaps other food might be better for you. So look after yourself in many different ways. Similarly with sleep, these are all things that you need to do. So that was very, very brief, the life section of the pyramid. Breathe, move, stretch, dance, wear sunscreen all the time. Sleep, listen to music, eat whole foods, and so on. So live, right? Live. And then we've got the capability or canny layer, and that is your physical and cyber setup, your writing setup, your time management, literature, and other resources. So it's setting yourself up here for all of your capabilities. And one of them obviously is your physical work setup. Hopefully you have a desk somewhere. If you don't, maybe it might be worth asking someone if you could have a desk somewhere. But it is really, really good if you can, if you've got the ability and the capabilities, to create a workspace for yourself, right? I'm sure many of you do, but also think about what that workspace might be like. Think about a chair. If you're going to sit on your chair for 8 hours a day or longer, when you need to write a paper, you want a good chair. You want not something that has one leg or it doesn't roll properly, or you can only sit with one bum cheek on it because otherwise you're going to fall off. Think about the desk. Is there a proper height? Do you need a footrest? Do you need light? Is there ventilation? All of these stupid things will make your life just a little bit lighter. But also natural light. So I'm someone who needs natural light very badly, and I will go outside to get that. Like I feel a little bit like I can see the sun there, and I'm like, whew, because these glasses are also a little bit tinted. Well, not the windows are a bit tinted, so we don't actually get that benefit. But you know, I'll go outside later on. If you don't have access to natural light, sometimes the blue light might help people. So in a lot of countries where you've got low light during winter, that might be of use. But simultaneously, blue light glasses, so our screens emit blue light that can aggravate many things. So perhaps that might be worth for you to explore. I have done that. I wasn't happy with them, so I ditched them. Other tools. So we have a bit of a space that we've set up, but all other tools might be noise cancelling headphones. I love mine. I'll take them anywhere. I'll take them everywhere. They're always charged. An external mouse, keyboard, a screen, or a laptop stand. When I travel and I know I'm going to work, I have a mouse and I have an external keyboard with me, because I know that if I use a trackpad, my hand seizes. And I already have issues with that hand, so then I already use my mouse with the left hand. So, you know, you see where I'm going for, like, you know, set yourself up here. If you have space at home, a printer. Yeah, really. I'm going to come back to that because it's an interesting point. Pen, paper, maybe you have a notebook. I see a lot of people with notebooks, so awesome. I've kind of transferred also to an e-notebook. I'm really loving it. I have this weird, intricate system with notebooks. It works for me. So do what works for you, right? Whiteboard. Some people love a whiteboard. It's not my thing. Some people have it in their office. Some people share it with their colleagues. You know, try. And footrest, but I think that's already there. Anyone has anything else to add that you can think of that you do use? A rocking chair? Yep. 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 Yep, absolutely. So I've got a chair that has an open hook folding. So if I move forward, it actually tilts. I'm a moving person because of other issues that I need to think of. So yeah, for me, it is, for example, important. For other people, it's important that it's like a straight back kind of thing and don't move at all. So find what works for you, right? Talk to people and find what other things are out there. So, obviously, we're all working towards one big thing, and that's this magical thesis booky thing, right? I don't know how your thesis looks like. Mine was some publications stuck together, but also build up with a narrative to have a broader picture and outcome, and so on and so on. Let's have a look. We looked at a physical setup. Now it's a cyber setup. You know, we all hear about really cool stuff. Oh no, you need to use Coda. No. I use Vim. And basically, whatever suits you as tool, use that tool. Go and explore a few tools. Go and test what works. Maybe keep even track of what you've tried and what works for you. But just don't use a tool because it's cool. If your colleague uses a cool tool and you see them whiz around with that tool, maybe they've been using that tool since they were 12 and they are a whiz. So find something that sits with you, not because someone thinks it should work for you. It goes without saying, but we always forget, sync stuff to the cloud. Your organization, your university most likely provides you something with cloud storage. Sync it somehow. There are tools out there that can automatically sync stuff. Like, I don't like keeping things in the cloud as such, but I do have backups running in the back end, to, for example, Dropbox, to Google Drive. I hate OneDrive, so I avoid it as a plague. But you know, see what works for you and what your institution provides you with. So, for example, on my e-tablet, I have that also synced to Google Drive. So if I drop in a PDF that I want to read on my e-tablet, I can. So, you know, automate stuff for you, but also automate so if your computer crashes, because it can happen, you have everything. And otherwise you will come crying at the end, and that's no fun. This is you know, this is more for my research area, but you know, get involved in your area of research, follow some mailing lists so you have an idea. Yeah, this conference might be interesting. That person is speaking there. There's a workshop here. You'll find out a few things that you can then also join in with other conversation with your supervisors, with your colleagues. Oh yeah, have you heard of that one? Oh yeah, cool. So it's just really useful to follow mailing lists. Ask your peers what they follow. I think the main advice though is, if you do, your inbox is going to be cluttered in no time. Lovely. So set up a filter. Set up a filter that all of these mailing list emails go into a folder that you actually never see. Once a week, go and have a look, or whatever you want if you're bored. But then at least you leave it out of all of your everyday activities. Nope. Okay. I already this morning said something about, you know, working with anthropologists, working with other people, working with LaTeX and Overleaf. So this is specifically for if you do work with a LaTeX editor, go and search what works for you. Obviously, a lot of people are using Overleaf, but you know, I still work with other ones locally on my machine, because I know sometimes particular editors will do particular things that I want to be done. So play around, ask what other people use, what they do, which templates to use, and so on. So you can, you know, build up, okay, what is going to work for me and what is going to work for when I work with other people. Time management. That's a beauty. A Pomodoro technique. Hands. Who's heard of the Pomodoro technique? Awesome. So I don't have to explain it, basically. But in short, Pomodoro technique is you set a particular time. Most of the time it's 25 minutes. You try to set up a task for that 25 minutes. You do that 25-minute task and you have a 5-minute break. You do that for several rounds. And then you have a longer break. It's a way of trying to manage yourself, to try to stick to doing something for a short amount of time, which enables you to move forward in your work. For me, the 25-minute, I think, is an awesome one. And maybe I'm going to ask you that now already because we are kind of 25 minutes, is get up. Get up. And move. So I find getting up after 25 minutes, just standing, go to the bathroom, go and fill your bottle, go and fill your cup, is just useful. Just move. I often do stretches because I'm hyper flexible, and it just works. So, and that's why I said if you want to get up at any point in time, please do so. You don't offend me at all. So we're stretching, we're walking around. What else? How can we keep track of our time? How can we try to keep us on track? And there are quite a few apps out there. I'm sure you've heard of a few where you can have it on your desktop and it tracks what applications you're doing. It's in a way the same on your phone. It tells you, oh, you've been way too long on TikTok, something like that, basically. And with the Pomodoro technique, it can be quite daunting when you start, if you've never done it, to say, okay, I'm going to focus for 25 minutes. And you go, oh, that's a long time. All right, what am I going to do in 25 minutes? But just give yourself a break as well, as in start small. You don't have to do everything in one go. Yes, we're supposed to be working 8 hours a day or 7.2 hours a day, but it doesn't work like that, especially not in the job we're doing, especially not in research. Research is a creative process. And sometimes you just need to step away, go outside, go for a walk, go and take your dog out, pet your cat, play with your child, or whatever you need to do to take your mind off what you're trying to solve and just give yourself that space of, all right, let it sit there for a moment. So this goes kind of hand in hand, as in, if you decide, all right, I'm going to try the Pomodoro, don't be harsh on yourself, right? Go with it. If it means that you start with 15 minutes to focus on something, awesome. Do 15 minutes, have a little break, do another 15 minutes. For example, I'm just saying it here as initial goal can be 1.5 hours. So that means 3 Pomodoros. And we all know some days are really bad. I had a bad day yesterday. It was like nothing was working. And some days are good. And you think, oh, I'm going to squeeze everything out of this day. I'm just going to go. You started in the morning, you're like still going, and you didn't eat because you were going. You didn't drink, or you drank the wrong things because you were on a roll. And then the next day you just crash again. Yeah, we've all been there, and we all will be there more. So it is really like, look after yourself. Keep that balance. If you set yourself for a task to do something, if you've done that and you feel good about it, sometimes it's fine to just let it go and do something that you physically enjoy. Go and read your favorite novel. Go running, go and whatever you need to do. And these are just some examples of what I use. So I'm a CubeServe user. I have been for a really, really long time. I used to have Rescue Time when it was free. And what happened here is Rescue Time then became paid. And I tweeted about that. Like, I was annoyed. So I tweeted, and so the developer of CubeServe contacted me and said, here, you can get a lifetime access. So I'm like, oh, awesome. Little does he know that I use it still, and I use it on multiple devices, and I do use it to tell people that I use it. Well, I should actually get some cut on his profit, although I don't think he makes that much. But it really works for me. It gives me some indication of where I've been, and this is something that I don't try to promote, but I do because I think, well, I've shown it's possible. That my PhD, I only worked 2.5 hours each day. And I did my PhD with just that. Right? And that was purely because when I did work, I sat down and did the work. Sure. There were weeks where I did nothing. Yes. And there were weeks that I did a lot because, there is a deadline, right? So yes, it fluctuates. But if you look at all the time that I've worked, 2.5 hours a day is enough. Right. So CubeServe, in this instance, you'll see on that day I was on Oz bargain for 33 seconds. Awesome. I was on the ABC for 9 minutes. I've been on Mac Rumors, on Amazon. But you can kind of make these classifications for yourself. You can say, okay, this is a web page that is important for my work, or this is an application that is important for my work, and yes, I'm doing something for work. Obviously, you have everything in control. If you want to fool yourself and say that Osbargen was absolutely needed for your research, fine. Right? Freebies, important for your research, absolutely fine. You make the rules, you set the rules. So if you want to fool yourself, go and fool yourself. If you want to make yourself feel better, go for it. I advise not to do that. Similarly with that time management, create a plan, a blog, OneNote, a Notion, Paper, Trello, Obsidian. Basically what I'm trying to say is keep track of what you have been doing, because you have your low moments and you want to go, oh, I haven't done anything. And you go back and you're like, oh, no, I did do something. I can feel fine about myself. No, that's all right. So review your achievements. Yeah, maybe your paper got rejected, as we all know the pain, but you did make it. You did submit it. You did work on it. You did reach out to a collaborator. You tried to call any one of these important people, right? So give yourself that feeling of, okay, I'm doing something. So keep track of what you have done. It is important to just do that generally, but also to lift up your morale if you are in a bad spot. But also think about what you will do on a yearly basis, on a monthly, weekly, daily, whatever suits your need. I think it's really important to take like a high level view, like a yearly view. And actually, if we have enough time, we will do an exercise with like a calendar, because I think it's really important to see where you're going, but also see where you have other commitments. Perhaps you're teaching one semester. Perhaps you're taking time off to go and see family. Perhaps I don't know. Perhaps life happens. And if you can schedule that in a little, you often see, July doesn't exist in my calendar. July is full because July is a conference. July is another conference. July also has visitors. And you're like, okay, I can't count on the month of July, so I don't have to beat myself up that I didn't do anything in July, because what I was doing was legit work. Right? Attending something like this is work. So plan plan what you will do, reflect on what you've done, where you want to go, and that gives you a little bit of a guidance for when you're lost. I'll give a moment. Yeah. No words needed. But what I was saying before is about keep track of what you're doing. I'm going to just show you some examples because examples work often quite well to illustrate stuff. This is an example of me during my PhD, and I kept track of what I did since the last meeting. I kept track of questions and issues I wanted to raise in my supervision meeting, what my next steps were, and what my next meeting was with my supervision meeting. This worked really, really well for me at that time. I know a lot of my peers were asked to do the same. Did not work for them at all. This worked for me like a charm, because it really made me go back and look, okay, what was my plan? What did I think at that time I needed to do? What have I done? What are my questions? And you know, you fill it up during the fortnight or the week when you're going to meet your supervision team. And that just really kept me on track. Again, might not work for you. Another one is OneNote. At a certain point when I moved institutions, I thought, okay, it's just me. I'm just responsible for myself. So I'm going to do it for myself, right? So I used OneNote because, well, hell yeah, all of the universities are now tied into Microsoft. It didn't work for me. The interface didn't work for me. The feeling of the tool didn't work for me. It just didn't. So I ditched it. Went to Notion because I thought, oh, that's cool. Notion. Had fun of, you know, creating templates. Spent way too much time on that. Didn't work for me. A colleague of mine, when they were writing up their thesis, that was their thesis plan, and that worked for them. They kept it on paper, and they kind of crossed out what they had worked on. Another way of looking at, okay, what have I done? What do I need to do next? Trello, I've used. I see some people going, oh, no. For me, it was really useful for for team-based. When I was talking about cardiac arrest and everything was online, we moved everything to Trello. It was useful to keep track of what needed to be done, keeping everything together and what needed to be done, because there was a lot that was happening. You can do it for yourself. I've tried it for myself too. Did not work. Currently, I'm using my e-notebook, as well as a notebook, as well as a long-running to-do list. And that works right now for me. So I have, I think there's even a slide of it too. Here we go. I have a long-term task list. That I know, okay, I'm organizing something. I need to do something for that. It takes a longer time. I can't tick it off in the next week. It's got no point in writing it down every time again, because I'm going to get frustrated that I need to write it down again, because it's a long running task. So I have that on a different set of paper to just have that overview. And there have been a few things on there. Oh no, I think I've done all of that, but that's from 2 years ago, right? But currently I've got things on my long-term to-do list that has. Oh no, sorry, I haven't done this. The data collection. Still waiting to do that, and I think Katrina knows about some data collection that I have promised. But plans change, right? And that's the thing. You make plans, these plans change. other projects come in between, something gets a little bit more priority. There's always something, and that's fine. That's the world we live in, so let's go with it. But there are a few things for the short term as well. What I have found sometimes really, really useful is to plan the task that you're going to do for the next day. Like often okay, this is important. This needs to be done very soon. I'll do that as the first thing, as a priority in the morning. And what I do quite often, if there is one thing that I need to do, first thing is write it on a Post-it note and put it on my keyboard. So it actually forces me to look at it when I want to log in. And just that little thing of, hey, this is what you're going to do first today, tries to avoid you going to scroll through social media and the news. It's like, okay, my brain sees this. Don't give my brain the space to think about other stuff, because it's going to go and check out what the soccer is doing. And I'm not even interested in soccer, right? But then take your breaks, as I already said, your hourly breaks. The Pomodoro technique there can help, doesn't need to. I'm sure you've all been in the flow, and it's awesome where you're in the flow and you're like, oh, I'm so good. I can do this. Yeah, this is fun, right? But also get out in time, because otherwise we burn the flow, and then it's hard to get back into it later on. So you need to, you know as a person where to go and where to stop. It takes time to learn, and some days you fail, some days you don't. But also take pauses. Get out, have some lunch. If you work at university, go and see your colleagues, see whether you can have lunch together, just to break up that day. I often work from home. I often go for a little walk in between, just to give myself that breathing space. Or I hang out the washing. That's something too. Like, just give yourself that regular pause that you can, just stop thinking. But also take time off. As a student, you don't have to take time off officially most of the time. It also means that you can take time off unofficially all the time. But plan something in. Perhaps you are going to do something fun with some friends. You go a weekend away. You might catch up with family somewhere. You know that there is a birthday. You make a long weekend of it. Take some time to travel, go and see people. It is important. So take time off, whether that's weekly, yearly, and so on. Also, most of the PhDs, you don't actually have to work full time. You should go and check, because in most universities, you only have to work 4 days a week. Yeah, I know. People are surprised. And Microsoft wants me to sign in. Yeah, no, it's just my screen's. Is it you? Oh, it is you. Okay, cool. Yep, all good. Yeah, and also sign off for the day, right? If you are done for today, close your laptop. Yes, I am guilty to then think about stuff and then go, I'll just go back. 45 minutes. It won't hurt. If you plan that in as I'm going to do 45 minutes tonight, I often do that because it's my brain is tired, my brain is calm, and I often can do things in a really nice way of doing it. So I often plan that I'm going to do 45 minutes at night because I like just that little slot. But that also means that during the day, that 45 minutes, I don't work, right? So I balance stuff out. And then everyone has bad days. And some bad days are just there and accept them. It's probably not fun, but do something fun. Instead of keep scrolling, keep trying. If it doesn't work, step away. Because that stepping away, often after a while, you'll come back and you'll be like, oh yeah, no, I get it now. I can do this. And it's got no point sitting because you think you ought to be there. Obviously, the downside is, and this is where I'm really good at, is death by planning. I love to plan. I love planning. Awesome, right? But when are you going to do it? Right? Yesterday, as I said, I had a bad day, but partially of that was because I have a lot of things that I need to do. I get overwhelmed. I don't know where to start. And that's when I do need to plan. I need to put down on paper what I'm supposed to be doing, when are things due, to then go, all right, it's fine. I do print off a calendar because I need to have that physically in front of me. So they're both sides of the coin, but be careful. If you're stuck in that loop of death, try to get out of it. Other ways of doing this is also journaling as planning. And this is something that I've been doing now for, I don't know, 5 years or something. And I really enjoy it. It grounds me. So what I do, I've got an Obsidian set up, and every day I go in there and I answer a few questions that I've generated for myself. These are my old questions. They've developed over time. And it's just to ground myself in, okay, where am I at this point in time? What is important? What are the obstacles I'm facing? Why is it that I'm not doing a particular task? And most of the time, the answer for me is, it's hard. And then you go, well, it's hard, but I need to do it anyway, so I may as well just do it. And then when I've written that down, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, fine. I'll just go on with it, right? So, for me, that's been a real changer in how I sit somewhere as well. At the end of the day, keep your eyes on the prize. Whether that is finishing your degree, getting another job, being, I don't know, the CEO of your startup, whatever it is, work towards that and try to optimize a few things along the way. Obviously, we're talking about research, and I'm already noticing that I'm going to be way over time, so I'll go quicker. Keep track of your literature. It is a hard task. I think earlier today in the session I thought was really interesting about how people were looking at literature and how systems are developing and so on. Find a way that works for you to keep track of literature. It is a really hard task, and I think no one has really solved that task, especially with the amount of things that are being published now. It's just impossible to keep track of stuff. So again, do what you can, be selective. You can't know everything. But some little things that you can do, you can put up a Google Scholar alert if there's a particular topic or particular keywords that you want to know, whether it's a new paper, Scopus alerts. If you start a naming convention for your papers, try to stick with it. Just, the usual stuff, nothing new. Collect information. So what I love about this, and this is where your printer already comes into play, if you find a paper that you're like, awesome paper. They've written it nicely. They've got good graphs. Their narrative was there. You feel it. You feel like when it's nice paper. Print it. Keep it as inspiration. Print it. Put it on your desk whenever you're stuck. If you need to find that voice when you're writing and you don't know your voice, sometimes it's nice to hear someone else's voice on how they write, to go, all right, they were confident in their writing. They were calm in their writing. I really liked that. They were steady in their writing. Let's try to imitate that kind of writing. So go and have a look again at what these people do. If you're in the thesis kind of mode, or you've just only started, create a folder somewhere that says thesis. Whenever you see a nice thesis, put it in there. You'll thank yourself, right? It is really interesting to think about. A thesis is something that we create. It is something we need to develop. But we are the creator, we are the author. We can shape the thesis in many different ways. My thesis eventually became something weird. In the sense that it had 3 major parts, which I'd never seen anyone else do, but it made sense for my thesis. It made sense to create these 3 different parts. I had never thought of that, right? It was with talking with my supervisors on how is this narrative going to go that we decided, actually, you know what? It makes sense to separate them. Other colleagues of mine made beautiful graphics in their theses. Other ones had awesome headings. So go and have a look and see, okay, what is it that I can take from that and take it my own and put it together as my own, because I am the creator of this little thing. So collect folders with theses when you come across something. For your literature as well, there are many tools out there. I am the one big bib file kind of person. I keep on trying Zotero and I keep on failing. Yeah, I'm still looking for the right thing there. Your brain, yeah, we have a bias towards some nice papers that we always cite forever. It works somewhat. But also your thesis file. So if you haven't already and you're working towards a thesis, I want you today create a thesis file. Whether you work in Word, hopefully not. Hopefully you work in something more exciting than Word. But create a thesis file where you can start adding headings, when you can start adding nice graphs, when you can basically make a sketchbook of things that you've come across that you think, oh, you know what? Yeah, that was a nice way. Right? So when you come to your white anxiety blank page stress crisis, you have something there. It's not a crisis anymore. You have something that may not be your own, right? But there is something. You've got not the blank pages. And that just helps. So if you haven't already, make that thesis file, start collecting stuff in it, put your references in there that you're like, okay, these are things I must have in there. Think about what works. Why I like Overly, for example, or LaTeX is that I can just shove stuff in there that I know are nice sentences or nice ideas or are ideas of mine that don't make any sense at that point in time, but they will later on help me. And you can uncomment them so no one sees them. You see them when you need them. And that's what I love about it. I'm not going to go in detail. This is just different ways of trying to keep track of your literature. You can have a spreadsheet. You can have folders. You can have folders and folders with other documents. You can have, I tried qualitative and Vivo, right? Because I wanted to know which researcher was doing what. Yeah, no, didn't work for me. What about generative systems, I hear you ask? I'd say go and try them, right? Not a problem. Consensus, pretty cool. Like Elicit, pretty nice. I'm now interested in trying to find out about, you know, the CSIRO person, yeah, whatever that was. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll hit you up. Yeah, I'll see what that was. But don't get lost. The end of the day, it's so easy to get lost in everything. You can get lost in tools, you can get lost in papers. And that's why I'm saying, that's where you need your printer. If you do come across that unicorn paper that you're like, this hits my note, this is what I want to do, this is awesome, print it off so you have it, so you don't have to go and find it somewhere. It is on your desk and you have direct access to that. But yeah, you've got a lot of generative systems. If that's your thing, awesome. I often go and have a look and see what is happening in that space, because I think it's just also my interest to see how these tools are developing. And automate your writing, right? Create a template for yourself. So over the years, you can develop templates. I've developed templates for many things, and you just copy paste every time again. When you start a paper, you know that you need an introduction. You know that what an introduction has, put it in there. You know that you need your methodology. You know what needs to go in the methodology, put bullet points, put headings, what needs to go in that methodology, so you just have to go and fill it out. If you come across nice sentences, put them in that template. I have a few of these sentences that I really like, that it's in such a way structured, but I can never remember how to structure it, so it's just there. I can copy paste it, I can fill out that sentence. So-and-so said this, so-and-so said that, however, bam, right? Something like that. I can't remember. But also a template of word lists of words. So there are words that you'll use all the time, but there are also words that you may not use in your writing yet, but you find out that they're useful. For example, English is not my first language. I've had to learn English. I had to learn how to write academically. And I didn't understand linking words. However, nevertheless, therefore, all of those, right, I had no clue what they were. So I made myself a list. I have, well, you see in a moment my list as well. But also, if you're using LaTeX, for example, you can use style guides for yourself. One thing that I always have difficulties with is, where do I put the commas? I've got dyslexia. I'm not going to hide that. Commas are difficult. Some things are difficult for me, so I'm trying to make my life easier. And so I give myself some templates on, okay, what works and what doesn't work. So this is what I was going to say. This is me on paper. This is literally out of my very old notebook, as to tell me what is what. So I had a part. Then I had a chapter, then I had a section, and then a paragraph. Here we go. Such as, including, to conclude, summarize, hence, as such. All of these things were things that I needed to look at. This one, IE and EG, is stuck on my screen because I don't know the difference. And I'll never know the difference because it's just my brain. My dyslexia kicks in and doesn't know what is what. And that's fine. Someone before M-dashes became popular sat down with me. She's an editor. She sat down with me and explained the differences between M-dashes and N-dashes. And I'm like, okay, I get this. All right, fine. I wrote it down and I can use it. So just make your life easier. Just little stupid things like that can be much easier for your brain. For just some practical writing tips, again, I don't think this is big news, but experiment with some that you like, synchronize your files. Also, if you use LaTeX, don't put everything in one file, split it up in multiple files, and keep your work tidy. Tidy means different things for different people, but if you work together with different people, you also start to feel, okay, what is a convention, what can work. I'm quite pedantic in a particular thing about headings because I'm very visual. Most of the time I go and edit people's headings, and that's purely out of selfish reasons. Most people don't mind that suddenly their headings have little dashes, but it makes a huge difference to me. I don't harm anyone. Similarly, keep tidy. Oh, that's what I was talking about. That's what I do, and it's just because I need that visual feedback. Use macros and templates for LaTeX for the acronyms. If you know what I'm talking about, you will know. If you don't, come and ask me. And well, this is basically macros. You create little commands as to what things mean, and you can change that. If you can have, for example, an acronym. You use that acronym throughout your project, and then suddenly at the end, before you're going to publish it, you're like, this acronym sucks. And then you can just change that acronym by changing one command. No Control F needed. And write for your future self. And I think this is a really interesting and important one. It's often when we write, and we're writing in our files, and we're like, yeah, all my ideas, it makes sense. Oh yeah, it makes total sense. Yeah, my brain, I'm vibing. It's all good. And then you come back to it 2 months later, and you're like, what on earth was I thinking? What was I on? So write for your future self. So when you come back to something, you actually understand what you've written. Be explicit. So write basically for someone else. Don't write for yourself, because then you'll never figure out what you've actually written. Again, keep these things together. If you use particular like shortcuts or whatever's like macros, have a file where you have them, or have a file or system where you can easily copy paste them, copy projects or whatever. Just make your life easier in that, because you will do this a lot. So set yourself up for that. And then create a writing pipeline. So then it's easy. We've got our templates. We open a template. We add some bullet points, some ideas, some thoughts, some references in your sections. We stop. We think. Go for a walk. Come back. Does it make sense what I've written? At the time, half an hour ago, yeah, it did. Not anymore. Does this section even make sense? Yeah, maybe it needs to be moved. That's all right. I'll make a note of it. To do, have a look where it can move to. Does the story make sense? Yeah, maybe not. But I think I've got an idea how to do that. Okay. Flesh out a section. Start building up a little. Okay, some more references, some more real text. Just write. Get it down on paper. No one's judging. Print. Read, mark up the section on paper. It's so surprising how your brain does different things when you read something on paper. And I can't stress this enough. Like, we're so used to reading everything on screen, but there is something about putting it on paper, taking a pen, going, hang on, I've used that word, however, in every single sentence in the last 5 sentences. Yeah, on screen you don't see that, but on paper you do. So scrape the howevers, move to some other ones, make your sentences shorter, because often you've got too long sentences. Transfer these things to your file. Some of them you can directly implement and keep going. Check your grammar. Often people have grammar checks. And just repeat. Right? And the nice thing with these things is often we get stuck somewhere along the way. And we're like fleshing out a section and we go, oh no, I need to check my grammar. And you're like, no, I don't need to check my grammar. I just need to write. And so it's trying to build up that idea of, I don't need to do everything at a certain time. It's okay if something is not perfect at that point in time, because it's just part of the process. This is an interesting one. I can't remember why it's here, but because I don't know, we were talking about the capability layer, and one of them is funding. And in that, obviously, you need to think about where your funding comes from. Some people bring their own funding, some people have limited funding, and so on. So this is something that you need to keep in mind. This can be a major stressor, and that's, you know, part of your responsibility as taking on this journey. Okay, I'm way over time already. So maybe I'll skip this for now. But if you do have something, come back to me and tell me. So we've done the life, we've done capability, a canny layer, we have the support layer. And these are your lab mates, your supervisors, the postdocs around you, faculty, collaborators, staff. They're incredibly important. They are more important than your physical setup, because they are actually really going to help you. Because creating a PhD is your journey and you need to take that ownership. But so that means you need to also manage the people around you. And this is an interesting one, because it's sometimes a difficult one. It goes back to this morning, I think, about disagreement and agreement. But asking and receiving feedback is in that kind of camp. We can ask for feedback or we can be given feedback. And most of the time we're not ready for that feedback because it sits so closely on us. We've been working on this thing that is us, right? And if then someone comes in and says, hang on, what were you thinking? Why did you use a qualitative method when it's actually quant? And you go, fuck. Why? So we're often not ready to receive feedback. Absolutely fine. Acknowledge that maybe at that point in time, you're not ready for it. Let that go and try to take it. Try to see where your colleagues or mentors or supervisors are coming from, because it is an important skill. Sometimes you ask for feedback and you're ready for it, or you're not ready for what they're going to say. Right? And it's just really hard to get feedback on what is so close to you. Everyone works different. But I think the main part here is there are always moments where we will have a bad feeling about our supervisors. Our supervisors, they didn't show up at the last meeting. They were overseas again. They didn't read what I had written. They have no clue what I'm doing, right? All of these thoughts. At the end of the day, yes, I've been on that side. I'm also seeing it from the other side. And supervisors are only humans, and they have a lot of different roles. They're not just your supervisor. We think that they are. They're there for us. But it's not the case. So if you haven't already discovered that you need to tell them every week or every meeting again what you're going to do, or what the purpose is of your study, or what you've been working on, whether it's eye tracking or LLMs, tell them again. Right? Tell them again what you do. Who are you? Right? Hopefully it doesn't come to that. But yes, remind them what you've been working on. You should be fluent in saying to them in 3 minutes what you've done, what you're working towards, what is the paper that you've been writing on for like the last year. You should be able to tell them that every single time. And yes, it's painful. It's painful for them, but they do so many other things and it's hard to keep track of stuff. This is something that is really personal. But for me, having meetings with supervisors and with students early in the week, I find way more productive than the end of the week. Why is this? You've got the weekend. You're like, awesome, sun is shining. I'm going to go frisbeeing with my friends. Yeah. I'm going to have a Barbie. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Weekend. But it's weekend. I can work. Maybe I'll do something. Yeah. I'll make a little graph because it's cool, right? Then you come to Monday and you think, shite. I've got that meeting tomorrow. All right. So Monday suddenly is like this day where everything gets produced, right? Everything happens because you've got the meeting tomorrow. You need to show what you've done. You go to the meeting on Tuesday. You're like, yeah, awesome. This is what I've done. I'm good. I'm good. I can do all of this in 2.5 hours, right? And then the rest of Tuesday, you catch up with your lab mates. Wednesday, well, you need to recover from Tuesday. Thursday, you might go, oh, yeah, I found this cool paper. I'll print it. On Friday, you think, I'll read the introduction. And so here we go again. So that's why I think it's a really good idea, and that worked for me, again, that Tuesdays are an awesome day for a meeting. A current student of mine, they're like, nah, Friday, 4 p.m. That's how I feel, right? That's how I feel. For them, it works. I'm like, okay, Friday, 4 p.m. it is. But avoid canceling or postponing meetings. We're very good at that. If you've got nothing to say, I'm sure your supervisors have something to say. But perhaps keep it shorter, and that's fine. Give them time back. It's absolutely fine. But it's also a way for them to check in with you, how you're going, where you're at. And it's important. It's part of the job. We need to know. Keep notes, share notes, remember the blog, share documents. Once you given them something written, it's often much easier for them to give you feedback. Just talking works, always talking about what you've done and showing results. But sometimes when you have to put stuff on paper and they can read it, they'll be like, oh, now I get it. Right? So help them, because it is not easy to be a supervisor all the time. But also make them work for you. You know, use their knowledge, use their contacts. If there is something that you want to be done, use them. And don't blame your supervisors. Right? We'll all do it at a certain point, yes. But at the end of the day, you need to remember that everyone wants you to succeed. Like having a student that isn't moving forward in their thinking, not moving forward in developing themselves, it's also really hard as a supervisor to see. because you want people to be successful. You have seen the light that these students bring. You see what they can do. You have all the confidence that they can pursue this. You want to make them successful. And everyone around you always wants you to be successful. Sometimes it's hard to think that way, especially when you've got the low moments. But that's why you've got your lab mates. That's why you've got your friends. They can tell you, nah, we want you to be here. We want you to be successful. But also look for collaborators or co-supervisors if that's suitable. I think the main caveat here is you need to communicate this very, very clearly to your supervisors. There is nothing worse to find out that suddenly a random person has been added to the project. Like, it's, well, it's not the worst thing to find out, but there are other things. But it's sometimes there are little things that could have been avoided, or they think it's awesome to have this person involved. Just communicate that clearly, why that's needed and what the purpose is of that. And perhaps the postdoc in the hallway is actually the person. Postdocs, I think, are not utilized enough. I think they sit in this nice sweet spot where they can be with you hands-on, see the bigger picture, know what you've been working towards, know what you're going towards. And I think, you know, having a chat with a postdoc that sits close to you is sometimes so beneficial that we forget about doing that. Nope. So I am quickly going to check my slides because I think I have 10 minutes left. And I have a lot more. Okay, let me finish this layer and then we might skip a little bit on a few more things. With collaborations, obviously there are many advantages, also disadvantages. Advantages if you've got, it might boost morale, right? You have other energy that comes into a project, but also might mean that it's difficult to handle that energy and different schedules and ambiguity in roles and working style and calendars. So have a think about adding another person if that really is going to be an advantage or not, because you need to manage these people again. On the upside is if you're successful in your collaborations, you show that you can work with other people, which is a real bonus and benefit for later on too. I think this one is not one I'm going to skip on because there are authorship rules and it is important that you know those. Go and check them at your institution or where you publish. They all have authorship rules. When does someone come onto a paper? So go and have a read. So these are just a few snippets of what the authorship rules are. This is something that you also can discuss very clearly with a supervisor to understand, okay, what are the customs and what are the rules within your own field. Invest in soft skills. I think we already alluded to that this morning as well. Like, be kind to people, be professional, have a positive attitude. If you say that you're going to be on time, be on time. For example, I was actually running late this morning, so I emailed to say that I was going to be 5 minutes late, and because I don't like being late. I was on time after all, but so follow through on initiatives. Initiatives is something really interesting. I think people really like when you take initiative. And if you see a gap that you can fill with your skills, sometimes it's worth thinking about taking that initiative to get something changed. Always be in the good books of support and admin staff. You never know when you're going to need them. I've needed them at horrible times and they were there. because they knew who I was, they knew what I bring, they knew I wasn't just trying to make drama. I really had an issue, and they absolutely helped me with that. And then make sure you manage yourself before you manage other people. All right, so that was the support layer. Now we've got the achievement layer, and I'm just going to quickly look through my slides. Well, you can read that one. Action leads to motivation, leads to more action, which can help with motivation. Briefly, it's the slide itself is tailored towards my area of research, but generally be proactive, take initiative, be professional. It goes together with the previous part as well. If you haven't, the world is online, and this is key. Make yourself a website, claim your Google Scholar profile, create your ORCID account, set up a LinkedIn. If you want a career, that's what you do. You need to have an online presence. And what is so nice about it is that you can create the narrative, what you want people to know about yourself. If you want to be the expert in LLMs and legal, then you can make yourself the expert in LLMs and legal. Gently, right? Don't overstate, but you can guide that narrative about you, and you can control about how you want people to perceive you. Network, you've been doing really well. Network, talk to people. Your network often is a really important thing that you take to a next place where you work. That's something that is not touchable, like physically, or it has no metric, but it is important. When someone comes to your university or research center, go for lunch, tag along, and invite yourself. If you are attending a conference overseas, find a university that's close by and invite yourself to give a talk. That's how you do it. That's how people get to know you. Leadership, I think, is an interesting one. Often you get asked what you do for leadership. And it is hard in the beginning. You think, yeah, but I'm just a PhD student, a postdoc. I don't know what leadership is. But there are so many things in leadership. You can teach, you can volunteer, you can just speak up, right? And then some traits is, honor commitments, look for solutions, be there when it counts. Be there. I'm going to skip that. It's going to take too long. This is an interesting one too. Willpower alone doesn't work. So this goes back together with your templates, your writing setups. Don't just rely on willpower, because it's going to fail, right? So put strategies around you, and that's basically what I'm trying to say with this. Okay, so we've done all of the layers except the top one, and I'm going to skip through that one too quickly, because we've built up all of the layers that we can rely on. And we come now to research. We finally can do research. We printed our papers, we created our thesis file, we are tracking literature, and now we can do research. And I said this before, but research is a creative process. Find your mind palace. Find where you're comfortable. Find what you like. I can go into my mind palace for a while and think about things and come back and write a paper. And it's my happy place. And bring yourself to the workplace as much as you want. You need to be comfortable. Which also means that you don't have to hide yourself. Okay, I think that's it. So basically, my message is go forth and do research, and do awesome research. And for all of the people who now go, and now what? That post-PhD feeling? Well, I'll leave you with this. So thank you for coming.
Something you were talking about a lot was making an environment that works for you. And I found that works really well when I'm working by myself on, say, my PhD, well, on purely the PhD work. But anytime I collaborate, I'm told essentially, you don't get to do that. Like, you having to go work in Google Docs, or I don't like Overleaf, I use Quarto, which is same style, but like all these kind of collaboration spaces are completely separate to like, you know, this nice workflow that I've made. How do you kind of deal with navigating that?
It sucks. Navigating it, sometimes it's just, I'm going to say it, suck it up. Yeah. And try to implement little things that work for you. So as I showed you, the little dashes that are important for me in Overleaf, I go in and put those in because in that particular system, that works for me. I'm having issues with people working in Google Docs. It just doesn't work with me. But it means that sometimes I take out a block, a text, put it somewhere where I can work with it, put it back. I might use different libraries than someone else, but maybe we have an understanding that, okay, I do this, you do that, I'll be using this and that. And I think it's a lot about communicating and trying to see, okay, can we meet each other? Sometimes we can't. Some people that I work with work in Word. It's not online. It's with EndNote. And they send copies around and they say, you have now a week to work on it, and then I'll take it back and work on it. And I'm going, why? Why? But psychologists like it that way. And sometimes it's worth a fight, other times it's not. And I guess it's the other way around too. I had the anthropologists join me in Overleaf, which they completely messed up, but I could go and clean it up, and I was happy, and I was happy to do the extra overhead. So there is no perfect answer here, but yeah, it's tough. Yeah. What do you think?
Sometimes I'm just stubborn. I still do it in Overleaf, and then I convert it in Word and then send it to them. Oh, I'm sorry if there are any issues with formatting, but here's your file.